everybody. How are you all doing? My name is Mark. This is Why I Hate the World. What's happening? Today, we are going to be talking a little bit about some of the conspiracies that popped up around Paul Pelosi following from what we talked about last week. And then we're going to talk a little bit about Carrie Lake, who is the Republican candidate for governor in Arizona. And then we'll finish off with a nice smattering of Charlie Kirk. Sorry to subject you to Charlie Kirk, but he's an asshole and we need to talk about him. But before we do that, let's see what we're working on. So this was the little witch character that we started last week. I finally just bit the bullet and put Photoshop on here. I mean, I really did like that other program, but it's just it's just not the same, you know? Like there's some things that you can do in Photoshop very easily that I couldn't seem to get down in that other program. What was it? Kitra, right? Just didn't seem to be happening. So finally just said screw it. I didn't want to use this because my copy of Photoshop is like super old, because I don't want to pay the $29.95 that it takes to actually like use modern Photoshop. Like I didn't want to do that because I don't believe in subscription services. Not when it comes to software that I use like on a daily basis. Like how come I can't just own it? You know what I mean? Like I don't believe that stuff. Like I've heard that Windows is trying to go to a subscription model, and it's like fuck. I don't even know what I'm gonna do when that happens. So I'm gonna have to like switch to Linux or something. You know, if they start doing that. Because screw that, man. Why should I pay, like, every month for something that. How come I can't just pay, like, a lump fee and then buy it and then own it? Like, why is it I have to keep fucking paying? Like, what if you use it, it's fine for now, but you use it for 5 years? $30 every day for 5 years. That can end up, being way more than the cost of just, like, originally purchasing it, like, outright. And that's the whole point behind subscription services too. I mean, of course, then there's also things that are like ridiculous things that you hear about becoming subscriptions, like a car that has the heated seats, but they won't turn it on unless you pay them a subscription service, some shit like that, right? And it's just it's bullshit. There's no reason for that kind of thing, and it's just another way of fucking like milking people for money. you know, which is always like part of the reason why I prefer to buy movies. Like I still buy Blu-rays and DVDs. I know a lot of people who don't now because everything is streaming. I still prefer as the movies that I really like. I still buy them. I don't buy like random bullshit anymore. But if the next whatever movie comes out and I really like it, I usually buy it on Blu-ray. Why do I still spend money on Blu-rays? Well, because I own it. I don't have to sign in and I don't have to pay $9 a month to like watch it. Like, you know what I mean? Like that's basically just like cable now. All the subscription services, like, I've got like Netflix and Hulu and HBO Plus and or HBO Max and Funimation and like all these other things. It's just like owning cable now. Back in the day when you were paying, $50, $60 a month for cable TV. Like now it's you just swap that out for streaming. It's like, well, fuck that shit. I'd rather just own buy the movie once and then watch it whenever I feel like. And then what if like the streaming service decides, okay, well we're not going to offer that movie anymore. It's like, oh, you really want to watch, this movie and it's been on here for years and years and years. And then you go to watch it and they just take it off one day. God damn, why does that look so shitty? Sorry. I'm still so I have a problem whenever yeah, okay. It's a little funky here. I don't know why that's funky. I may need to calibrate my thing here, but you know what we can do? We can solve that very easily. We could just go here, get a line, make that 2 points there, rather than trying to freehand that. Let's just do something. Oh, wait a minute. I don't want the shape. I want the pixels, and let's make it weight 2 points there. Let's see, it's so much nicer when you actually know what you're doing. You don't have to like hunt around for a year. That was the only problem with Kitra there. I really liked Kitra, but just it took too long, man, to like figure out how to do shit. Anyway, enough bullshit. Let's talk about some of these subjects that we're going to talk about today. So, continuing on from last week with the Paul Pelosi story, you guys are all, if you didn't catch our stream last Saturday, you've probably heard the story by now. Paul Pelosi was attacked in his home by a, looking like a crazy person who just happened to be a massively insane right wing conspiracy theorist. We actually got to see his website last week, so there's no mistake. If you want to actually see what his blog looked like, if you go, you can check out our stream from last week. They took it all down. If you go on the Internet Archive, you can still see the outline of it, but all of the video links are broken, which kind of sucked because I wanted to review one of those videos that had Pastor Rick Wiles on it, and I can't find it now, which kind of stinks. But Rick Wiles is like a whole big, like, what's the term for that? Barrel of, whole new barrel of fish or whatever. Like, when searching, I think I may have put myself on an FBI watch list or some shit when searching for some of these people. Like, I think the FBI thinks I'm some kind of, like, crazy, like, deranged fucking conspiracy theorist MAGA chud because I'm always searching for these guys. Right? So we will cover some of Pastor Rick Wiles' content in a later date. He's really off the hook with the he's really off the hook with the anti-Semitism. I mean, just every single thing I uncovered with this guy was like, the Jews did this, the Jews did that. Hey, I see we got some people watching. Thank you, whoever you are. Lusa Hedgehog, what's going on, man? Thank you for joining. So anyway, here's one thing that I saw before we get into all that. This was funny, and I wanted to share this with you guys here. This is from, quiet, Laura Ingram. Something I saw on Twitter. Let me put this down in the chat for y'all. And let's turn on our window, main laptop. There you go. But let's make it smaller because, oh, yeah. Let's make that smaller. And let's just, that way we can make this super big. This is something I thought was funny and I wanted to share with you guys here. You always hear about, when it comes to political violence, right? The right wing is very, very good about blaming other people when they do bad stuff. I don't know if you've ever noticed that. You had this one guy that went to the congressional baseball game or something and then shot at some Republicans, and he shot Steve Scalise. And that happened like a decade ago, and they still bring that shit up like constantly. They always bring up, like, whenever you talk about political violence, they always bring that up. They always bring up the neighbor that beat the shit out of Rand Paul. I don't know if you guys remember that. Like, Rand Paul's neighbor like beat the living crap out of him once over a dispute because he kept dumping garbage on his land or something like that. They always bring that up. They always, what they'll do is they'll find every instance of political violence they can against right-wingers. And anytime this subject comes up, anytime they, say somebody breaks into the Speaker of the House's, house with a hammer and tries to murder her and ends up, putting her husband in the hospital. Like, anytime something like that happens, they bring up all these other instances, right? Because they're very good about, blame, and, it's the left wing is insane, the left wing is violent. We're not violent. It just so happens all the people on our side that engage in violence are just, crazy, deranged, like, mental patients. And all the people on the left side are actual genuine democratic operatives and shit like that. And that's what they always do. And so I saw this little video from Laura Ingram, who is, a white supremacist. And talking about naming the names. So I wanted to share this with you guys because I thought this was interesting. Let's take a watch.
Now, which Republican official or candidate has ever condoned or in any way encouraged any type of violent assault? Can you start naming them? I can't.
I'd like to punch him in the face, I'll tell you. Knock the crap out of him.
Maybe he should have been roughed up.
They never name names because they can't.
I want you to watch Nancy Pelosi empty that gun. It'll be hard not to hit her with it, but I will bang it down.
It's a crime punishable by death, is what treason is.
So yeah, that whole thing where they said, "Oh, I'll hit her with the gavel or whatever," that that kind of resurfaced at a very inopportune time there. You know, right when someone tries to murder her, you know, someone breaks in her house seeking to murder her with a hammer. That you know, what's his name? The politician there is Kevin, whatever his name is. Just so happens he is saying the exact same shit of what actually happened. Just not very good optics. Let's go back to here. Let's rewind it a little bit before I started talking.
It's a crime punishable by death, is what treason is. Nancy Pelosi is guilty of treason, and we want her out.
They never name names.
That other one there with Marjorie Taylor Greene. Want to comment on that because Marjorie Taylor Greene, in my opinion, is a traitor. She was there at January 6th, and she was part of the effort led by the Republicans in the House in order to object to the election results. And her role, along with Ted Cruz, was she was going to object to the election results in Pennsylvania, if I remember correctly. And her role, along with Ted Cruz, was to basically get it to a point so that Pence could declare that there were too many open questions about the election, you know, and then he could kick it back to the states' legislatures. That was the plan, is that she and Ted Cruz and a couple of other Louis Gohmert and some other people were going to basically do these ridiculous objections based on zero evidence, because there was no evidence that any of these states were stolen, right, or that the counts were rigged or any shit like that, right? And that was their entire point, was that they were going to be like, okay, well, we object to this state, we object to that state, whatever, and then Pence was going to turn around and be like, okay, well, I can't certify this because there's too many open questions. And then when that happens, what the law says is that it goes back to the state legislatures, and the state legislatures decide who gets the electoral votes, right? And it just so happens that the majority of the states in the country have Republican-led state legislatures, and then they were going to basically decide in favor of Trump. That was the plan. That was the Green Bay what was it called? The Green Bay Rush or whatever the fuck that plan was, right? And while that's happening, riots and shit are going on outside. So it was you have this internal pressure from the, from the Republican House reps, and then you have the external pressure of people rioting and breaking windows and threatening to kill them and shit if they didn't do it. And the plan was that all of this was going to basically, force Pence to go along with it. And it just so happens that Pence didn't go for it. The only reason why the shit didn't happen, Pence was kind of the linchpin. And the only reason why it didn't happen is because, Pence has a little bit of integrity, right? Even though he's even though and I'm not defending fucking Mike Pence, because he sat there and allowed all this shit to happen for 4 years. He basically served under a president that he knew was corrupt as hell. Make no fucking mistake. Mike Pence knew what was going on there. He knew Donald Trump was corrupt as fucking hell. Okay, that has to come down like that. This has to come down there we go. All right, because then it won't match up. Right. He allowed that to go on for fucking 4 years. He could have at any time sounded the alarm or quit or whatever. And when when you know shit is happening that's corrupt and you don't do anything, that's like, you're just as like, you know, complacent. Like, especially if you're somebody like who's in a position of power, like Mike Pence was in a position of power. You know, he could have resigned. He could have blown the whistle at any time with all of this shit that happened, right, during the Trump years. You know, that's all coming out now. This is why Donald Trump is like in fucking such like legal trouble. You know, he could have like put the kibosh on that shit at any time, and he allowed it to go through. He allowed Trump to basically run unchecked, you know, and essentially did his job for him too. Let's also not forget that Mike Pence was like in charge of like domestic and foreign policy. That was his job in the Trump administration. Like, Donald Trump didn't really make decisions. It was fucking Mike Pence. He was the one that was doing it, right? So, you know, Donald Trump just sort of like played golf and like, you know, tweeted some shit every now and then. Right? So he's a very like hands-offish kind of president. Like, that was Donald Trump's job, was just flying around and doing rallies and shit and taking credit for everything. And Mike Pence was the guy actually signing the fucking paperwork, you know. So, yeah. But anyway, getting back to Marjorie Taylor Greene, she's a fucking traitor. She's a fucking traitor. So everything that she says that should happen to traitors should fucking happen to her, in my opinion. Because fuck Marjorie Taylor Greene. Moving on.
Names because they can't.
That is a depiction of Representative Gosar carrying swords, attacking Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez.
They never name names.
Let's have trial by combat.
Today is the day American patriots start taking down names and kicking ass.
We will not go quietly into the night.
Striking fear in the hearts of liberals everywhere, folks.
Get on the phone, call your congressman. You can lightly threaten them.
Yeah, did you hear that? Did you see that one? Let's rewind that one a little bit. I think that was an ad. Striking hearts in the fear of liberals everywhere. This was like some political ad, if I remember, where they're like basically firing like weapons like at a fucking shooting range and shit. And that seems to be a disturbing trend among Republican politicians, where they just use very violent imagery like that. Like, when was the last time you saw a Democrat, right, in a political ad at a shooting range? You know, like, we're gonna blow away those Republicans. You know, like, no, it's not a thing that happens, right? But this is something that, I mean, and this is shit that you saw from Dan Crenshaw made fucking ads like this. Like, it's very, I mean, that's the thing about it, is that they skirt the edge, right? And any Republican will turn to you and be like, well, they're not actually threatening anyone. They're just at a shooting range. It's like, no, the subtext. The subtext is, we're going to kill the liberals. That's the subtext to this ad. You know, why would you have a political ad where you're at a shooting range firing your gun and then afterwards saying striking fear in the hearts of liberals everywhere? Read the fucking subtext. You know what I mean? That's a threat, is what that is. So, fucking ridiculous. Shit like that should be illegal, especially when it comes from like a politician. You know what I mean? So, let's move on here.
Everywhere, folks.
Get on the phone, call your congressman. You can lightly threaten them. I'm coming after you.
You can lightly threaten. You are not allowed to threaten your congressman. You're not allowed to do that. So, anybody who took Madison Cawthorn's advice will be getting a visit from the fucking FBI there. That is not a thing that is allowed. Just want to make that clear. Do not threaten your congresspeople.
Madison Cawthorn's coming after you. Everybody's coming after you.
I don't think liberals thought this whole mask thing through. You better believe I'm coming with my Springfield XPS.
The swamp isn't truly drained until we've nailed the hides of the alligators to the wall.
They never name names because they can't.
Second term kicks off with firing Ray, firing Fauci. I'd put the heads on pikes, right? I'd put them at the two corners of the White House as a warning.
I said, right to the violence. That's what I'm saying.
You don't.
So that right here, this little scene right here, this is Roger Stone, right? This is November 2nd, so this is right before, you know, the election and shit, right? This is Roger Storm, and he's walking with fucking, I think this guy is one of the Proud Boys, is who this is, right? So, and you see what he's saying? Let's just get right to the violence. Like, basically, Roger Stone at that point didn't even want, like, there to be an election. He's just basically advocating for fucking going out, beating people in the streets, like fucking, brown shirt style. That's fucking Roger Stone. Remember, Roger Stone is responsible for the Bush administration. I don't know if you guys out there watching remember that. Because of Roger Stone, we had George W. Bush elected as president. Like, what happened is basically during the election, right, Florida recounts were happening, and Roger Stone instigated a thing called the Brooks Brothers Riot, I think is what it was. I think that's what it was called, Brooks Brothers Riot. I gotta look that up now just so I'm not like, Brooks Brothers, wait. Brookstone Riot? Something like, wait, hang on. Brooks Brothers Riot, demonstration meeting election canvassers. Yeah, that's what it was, Brook Brothers Riot. Right. And they were basically election canvassers organized by Roger Stone in order to essentially stop the recount in Florida, and that basically led to the Florida Supreme Court decision that ruled in favor of George W. Bush in order to stop that recount. And they since continued on with the, they did like an unofficial recount after that, and if that would have continued, right, then Al Gore would have been president. So we have fucking Fox News and Roger Stone to thank for the Bush administration. Now think of all the shit that happened during the Bush administration that wouldn't have happened if he wasn't president. I don't know, the invasion of Iraq, for example. Or if there was no Iraq, I mean, there probably still would have been an invasion of Afghanistan, right? If there was no Iraq, there would have been no fucking, there would have been like no ISIS, right? ISIS would never have like taken power because Saddam Hussein would have been there and would have stopped them from taking power, right? So think about, the basically hundreds of thousands of people who died, not just because of the Iraq war and the direct casualties, like the entire families and stuff getting wiped out during a war, during bombings and stuff like that, because that's what happens, right? And all the refugees, that kind of thing. But think about all the people that ISIS killed. Think about all the like displacement, like the terrorism that got spread around the Middle East as a direct result of the Iraq war, right? There's somewhere around 50,000 American casualties, not just counting people who died, right? But casualties were like, people losing limbs, stuff like that, right? Men getting cancer from sitting in tanks that are filled with depleted uranium. That shit's radioactive, right? People get cancer from that. People get like cancer from burn pits, where they're like, because part of the thing, like when you're in a war like that, say if you have like a computer and it breaks down or something, half the time they don't bother fixing it, they just destroy it because they can't risk it getting into the hands of the enemy, so they'll just go and take it out to a burn pit and they'll just burn the entire fucking thing, right? Well, it also ends up being like, so there's not just like garbage and shit in these burn pits, there's like fucking toxic metals and materials and all this other crap, and it's like these are soldiers getting fucking cancer from shit like that. Just think about all the all of that stuff, and just geopolitically all of the shit that happened because of that, the Arab Spring, everything, like, I mean, all of that stuff may not have happened in that way if we didn't invade Iraq, right? That's how, like, one bad decision, one place, it can reverberate like around the world like that, and we're still dealing with the repercussions of the Iraq War. Like, I mean, fucking 20 years later, we still have people, for example, in Guantanamo Bay, who were taken from Iraq. There's still people there now. There's like still like 25 people, something like that, in Guantanamo Bay. Like, we still have, like, refugees and shit coming from Iraq. You know, Iraq is still, like, messed up, right? As a country. It's, you know, you don't just, like, okay, the Americans leave and then everything's cool 2 weeks later. No, it's going to take them years upon years to recover from that, you know? I mean, that's what fucking, and we have partially Roger Stone to thank for that shit, because Roger Stone doesn't believe in democracy. Because Roger Stone believes in fucking, you know, his like idiotic rat fuckery where he wants to like impose his fucking will on everybody else. Like, why? So rich people can get tax breaks? This is why elections matter, folks. You know, they matter, right? And, you know, we're coming up on an election now, and every time we have one, there's always some asshole out there that says, like, both sides are exactly the same. Why should I matter voting for one? It doesn't matter. Or there's always a guy that'll be like, you know, whatever Democrat is there is giving us too little. Oh, they haven't done enough. Oh, we don't have, you know, a UBI and universal health care and like, you know, all this other shit that I have on my wish list. It didn't happen, so I'm not voting for him. Fuck it. I'm gonna go vote for, like, you know, some other little tiny ass party that will never fucking, like, accomplish anything. It's fine. Vote for whoever you want. But just remember, you know, elections have consequences. And if you allow the, you know, the thing is, nobody here would call George W. Bush a fascist. Not anymore, right? Not after we got a taste of what real fascism tastes like, you know, right? We know what real fascism is now. It's not George W. Bush. George W. Bush is, you know, conservative, like, you know, as hell, but he wasn't a fascist, right? So that's what happens when even just, you know, fascism light, like George W. Bush, gets in charge. You know, can you imagine if Trump were in charge in 2001? Like, if there was a 9/11 type event that happened during Trump's term that basically gave him carte blanche to invade any country on earth, the same way that Bush had. Can you imagine what kind of, like, damage that idiot would have done with that kind of power? Right? This is why it matters. You know, do you like the country that you live in? I don't know about you, but I do. I like the idea that, you know, I live here and it's great, and, you know, we have jobs and we have food on every corner. I like the idea that I could literally go outside right now and find a restaurant from every country or culture on earth within a 20-mile driving range. I like that. You know, that's one of the benefits of living in a big city, is that I could go out at any time. I could get sushi. I could get Mexican food. I can get a ton. I mean, it's Los Angeles. You can get Mexican food fucking on every street corner. I could get Thai food. I could get Ethiopian food. I mean, it's everywhere. Like, I like that. I like the idea that, you know, when I wake up in the morning, I can turn a switch and the lights come on, and I don't have to worry about there not being electricity. I like that, you know. I like the idea that when I go in the morning and I turn on the faucet, clean water will come out that isn't contaminated by lead and doesn't have fucking, like, sewage, like raw sewage in it, you know. And it doesn't cost me fucking, like, $1 billion a month. Like, I like that. I like that I can get all these. I like that I can flush the toilet with, like, toilet paper in it and not have to worry about backing up the fucking sewer, like, in my house, you know. And I don't have to worry about, like, giant fucking sewer rats coming up through my toilet and, like, you know, that kind of thing. You know, I like these things. These are the things you get living in a modern developed country. I like living in a modern developed country, right? Do you like those things too? You know, I'm not even talking about, you know, capitalism or any shit like that. Just, do you like living in a modern developed country that has things like restaurants and stores and roads and, you know, a semi-functioning educational system, which is, like, shitty as hell, but at least it's kind of functioning, right? Do you like these things? Because if you like these things, then this is what you need to vote to protect. Because how do you think we got these things in the first place? They didn't just show up. Somebody like Elon Musk didn't just create these things for us. You know, the reason why you have shit like this is because of the government. Okay? That's why. Because of the government, because of regulations, right? That's why you have clean water, is because of regulations. That's why you have electricity that's, you know, expensive but doesn't fucking bankrupt you, you know, because of regulations, right? That's why you have restaurants where you can go get food and not have to worry about dying from food poisoning because of regulations, right? This is why we live in a modern country where you don't have to worry about shit, you know? I mean, fuck, I go to Mexico. You ever been to Mexico? And you go down there and you'll see like a really awesome, super modern house, and then right next to it will be like a really fucking dilapidated, shitty as hell house with like fucking boards on the windows and like, you know, it's because they don't care about that stuff because there's no regulation there, right? Because in a country like Mexico, if you have the money, all you have to do is grease a few palms and you get whatever you want. You know, we're driving around, like me and my wife went on a cruise like before COVID hit, and we went down to Ensenada in Mexico, and you know we're on a tour bus, and it's like there's people living in fucking ruins, like burned out houses. Like first off, you look on the side of the hill, and there's like entire like barrios and shit of people living in like cardboard huts, you know, that kind of thing. That's fucked up. I mean, we're starting to see shit like that in this country, which is fucking disturbing. But then, you know, on top of that, it's like they'll be like on the side of the road, like burned out ruins that have clearly, you know, ruins of houses that were clearly burned down. And then if you look closely, there's like clotheslines in between the fucking burned out rafters. There's people living in there. And it's like, dude, like that's what happens when you have, you know, a shitty government. When you have a government that's corrupt as hell, and, you know, where people don't, you know, that doesn't take people's lives as a priority. This is what ends up happening. And it's what's really disturbing is we're starting to see places in the United States that are just like that. Starting to see fucking Hoovervilles and shit pop up all over the place. You know, big tent cities. In any given major city now, there's like massive homeless populations, people living in tents, people living in fucking like cardboard fucking boxes and piano crates and shit. You know, it's starting to happen here. Why? Because of Republicans. That's why. Because Republicans don't want to raise taxes and fucking put the money towards helping people. That's why this shit's happening. So, anyway, kind of went off on a big tangent there. Is this what this is? A Lincoln Project? Right. Thanks, Lewis. Good. This is a Lincoln Project. They're fucking good for them. Anyway, this is almost over. Let's watch the rest of it. Fuck Roger Stone. I guess that's what I was trying to say. Let's move on.
You don't fight like hell, you're not going to have a country anymore.
Now, which Republican official or candidate has ever condoned or in any way encouraged any type of violent assault? Can you start naming them? I can't.
Anyway, wanted to share that with you guys there because that was fucking ridiculous. And it's good to see that, you know, I like to see shit like that in order, yeah, it's like name names. Okay, here are the fucking names, right? Like, here's all the examples of, you know, of the GOP being violent, and not just random people on the street or on Twitter or on Parler or some shit advocating for violence, but for actual, you know, big figures within the Republican Party advocating for violence. So I thought that was interesting. Here's another thing I wanted to share with you guys. You've all probably seen this by now. This is a tweet by the new boy emperor of Twitter, Elon Musk. I'm sure you guys have probably seen this. This was in the news all over the place. Elon Musk, there is a tiny possibility there might be more to this story than meets the eye. And what is this story here? Well, let's take a look. The awful truth, Paul Pelosi was drunk again in a dispute with a male prostitute. Told ya. I knew it. See, last week when we did our stream on Saturday, it was less than 24 hours after the actual event. It was like literally the day after, and not even, something like only 16 hours had passed, right? And we were already starting to see this narrative, this idea that he was, it was, a male prostitute, right? Which I don't even know where that even comes from. Like, as far as I could tell, so everywhere I'm going on, the right wing internet is telling me that Paul Pelosi for years has been like, a figure in the gay community in San Francisco. And I couldn't find jack shit. I searched around looking for any reference to that from before last week. I couldn't find anything. And I think they just made that up. I mean, unless somebody has like, some photos of him hanging out at Studio 54 or some shit from like whatever, something like that, or like pictures of him like at a fucking gay orgy or something or whatever, then okay, but I couldn't find any reference to him at all. I think that was I think it's just an invention. I think basically within 24 hours of this, of this story hitting the news, the fucking chuds on the right wing somewhere, some fucking, some staffer for some, like, politician somewhere, or some douchebag on 4chan or something, just came up with this story in order to basically smear Democrats, right? Because, they wanted to make sure that these guys didn't get any sympathy votes or whatever in the upcoming election. And couldn't find any evidence for that at all. But here you go. Less than, it's like now you have people like Elon Musk tweeting this shit. So it's one thing if it's just some fucking moron on Reddit in a conspiracy sub, which is what the, the conservative, our conservative actually is. It's a conspiracy sub. I mean, but it's one thing if you just get some random fucking douchebag tweeting, like making a comment over this stuff. It's something else when it is the CEO of, a giant fucking social media company, right? The biggest social media company next to Facebook, probably. And, also this, who happens to be also the richest man on earth. Well, I guess he's not the richest man on earth anymore. Since he fucking blew all his money on Twitter. And now Twitter is up shit creek. I don't know if you guys have heard about that. Twitter is basically fucking screwed. Let's turn this shit off here. Twitter is basically screwed, by the way. It's making like way less money, than it should, hang on a second. Let me just need to make that smaller. I just actually need to make this tiny. Okay, there we go. But yeah, apparently Twitter is like hemorrhaging money, and due in no small part to all of the debt that Elon Musk just settled on it, right? And he's laying off like he laid off like 4,000 of their fucking employees and shit like that. So Twitter is basically going away. There's no way. It doesn't look like it's going to be able to make any money back. And then like a bunch of advertisers left because as soon as Musk came over, a bunch of Nazis showed up, started spamming the N-word everywhere, and like none of them want to fucking like advertise for this company anymore because there's a bunch of fucking Nazis on it. So it's like, oh well, Twitter might be going out of business pretty soon. This is why he's like e-begging people to fucking like pay him $8 a month to be verified, and all the celebrities are telling him to go pound sand. It's like a fucking train wreck, and it's hilarious. It's like this fucking moron just blew $40 billion on a company which is going to go out of business now. And I hope it does. Teach fucking Elon Musk a lesson. And it sucks that the people that work there are losing their jobs now. So I really hope, I don't know. I don't want Twitter to go out of business. I want him to just, you know what I want him to do? I want him to be forced to sell it at a massive loss and basically be humbled because fuck Elon Musk. And first, seriously, like, the world's literal fucking richest man had $42 billion. Do you imagine what you can do with that kind of money? With $42 billion to make the world a better place? I mean, you could spend 41 billion of that and still be a billionaire. $1 billion is enough to live comfortably and not have to worry about money. And basically, you could spend like a drunken sailor with $1 billion and still never have to actually ever work again in your entire life. Just the interest from that money would be enough to supply your basic needs. And this doesn't, and you could still buy all the Ferraris and take all the fucking trips to fucking Paris that you want. And you'll probably never blow through all that unless you're like, I don't know, an idiot and you buy a fucking social media company. Like, seriously, it's his own fault. And the real victims here are the employees of Twitter, who are basically fucking gonna have to get new jobs now. That's the fucked up part. I mean, he already laid 4,000 of them off, so I'm glad that nobody's gonna pay a stupid fucking $8 free speech fee. Get the fuck out of here. And if nobody, he's basically saying that he's gonna like fucking, if you don't pay the fee, then no one's gonna like, the feed is not going to prioritize your tweets. Well, fuck it, nobody reads my tweets anyway, so who cares? Kiss my ass, fucking Elon Musk. I'm not gonna pay for your dumbass to like, to bail your dumbass out. Fuck you, get a job. Anyway. Like, seriously. But there you go, folks. So when you see, but getting back to my original point, it's like this conspiracy theory, and then when you get the world's literal richest man on earth spreading it around, people are gonna fucking believe it, and it doesn't matter if it's true, right? That's the other thing. People will believe it because Elon Musk tweeted it. Even if he, like, had to, take it down because it was bullshit. Doesn't matter. There will now be people who, for the until the end of time, will now believe that Paul Pelosi was attacked by a gay prostitute that he hired, and that the cops are covering it up for him because of Elon Musk. Anyway, another thing that I saw, Carrie Lake. So you guys know who Carrie Lake is? She is the Republican running for office for governor in Arizona. And she is the main reason why I am thankful when I wake up in the morning that I don't live in Arizona, because she's essentially Trump in a dress is what she is. And she's kind of doing that on purpose, She is a complete and total, like if you could get, like, the Wicked Witch of the West and then, like, make her a real person and then make her a politician, like, that would be Carrie Lake, So Carrie Lake's thing is that she was, well, here, let me show you why is she in the news now. Besides the fact that she's, like, running for and most likely will win the governorship in Arizona, because I don't know what the fuck is the matter with people in Arizona. But she attacked
Do you plan to have it in your budget?
Shut up, bitch. Okay. She actually attacked Paul Pelosi at a rally that she had recently. Let's turn on our window here. This is Carrie Lake here. Let's make that big. Let's see what she's got to say.
Do you plan to have it in your budget to increase school safety, and how so?
I believe with the last budget, Wendy, not if I'm right, was it about $50 million put into increasing school safety with school resource officers, armed officers, to make sure we're protecting our kids. It is not impossible to protect our kids at school. They act like it is. Nancy Pelosi, well, she's got protection when she's in D.C. Apparently her house doesn't have a lot of protection. But
apparently her house doesn't have a lot of protection. So please keep in mind, the question here, right, was what will you do to protect kids in school? And she brings up Nancy Pelosi. What the hell does Nancy Pelosi have to do with school safety? What is, because what is that question about? Like, how are you going to stop fucking mass shootings at schools? That's the fucking answer. That's what they're asking. What are you going to do to stop maniacs from breaking into schools with machine guns and AR-15s and fucking, like, semi-automatic pistols and shit like that, and, like, murdering children? What's your solution to that? And she decides to make fun of Paul Pelosi. Right. She decides to make fun of an assassination. And remember, the Paul Pelosi thing was an assassination attempt against the Speaker of the House. That's what actually fucking happened. Right. Somehow she thought that was an appropriate answer to give to that question of how are we going to protect children in schools, you know? Because it's not like mass shootings in schools have just stopped. It's not like that's not a thing that happens anymore. It's not like, oh, that was ancient fucking history. No. It was like last week. All right? And you know what? Here's the thing. I don't even have to, like, look that up. I can say that with confidence. Right? You know what? That should just be removed completely. You know, I can say that with confidence because I know that somewhere in this country last week there was a mass shooting. Right? I don't even have to, like, verify that. It's true. It happened. Somewhere in this country, I could look it up and find, you know, definition of a mass shooting is shooting where more than 4 people are injured or killed. I guarantee you I could find one that happened someplace in this country last week. Because that's the kind of country we live in. What the hell was she going to do about that? Right? How is she going to protect their children? You know, because children seem to be a pretty big target of all of these mass shooters. What are you going to do to stop that? Her solution is make fun of the Speaker of the House who may have been killed. That's her fucking solution, folks.
If our lawmakers have protection, if our lawmakers can have protection, if our politicians can have protection, if our athletes, then certainly the most important people in our lives, our children, should have protection. I do want to get to the very bottom of who...
Our children should have protection. Now, notice what she did say there, though, right? What did she say to answer that question? She said, well, there were $50 billion spent in the budget for things to protect our kids in schools, right? Including officers. Like, let's rewind that. Before she made fun of fucking, you know, before she decided to crack a joke at an 82-year-old's, you know, who's in the hospital at his expense. Let's see what she actually said.
They act like it is. Nancy Pelosi with school resource officers, armed officers, to make sure we're protecting our kids.
So you notice that's what she's like. Let's watch that one more time. One more time, okay?
I believe with the last budget, Wendy, not if I'm right, was about $50 million put into increasing school safety with school resource officers, armed officers, to make sure we're protecting our kids. It is not impossible.
Okay. In the last budget, $50 million was added for school resource officers, right? The question was, what are you going to do, right? She answered with that answer, right? She answered with some shit that was already passed in the budget from the prior governor. That was her answer. That was already there. That's already, right, something that's instituted. The question is, what were you going to do about it? So she basically just skirted the fucking question, right? She didn't say anything she was going to do. She just pointed out what was already there, right? Like, it's like, and then she immediately, like, you know, skirted away and made fun of, like, you know, the Speaker of the House. The assassination attempt on the Speaker of the House. Do you guys catch that? Do you see that the subtle manipulation there? Right? Only politicians are allowed to answer questions like this. If you were in a job interview and you gave an answer like that, would you expect to be hired from that? You know? Like, I've interviewed people. Part of my old job was I used to run a team. You know, we used to do quality assurance for software. And, you know, I would have to interview people now and then. And you have to look out for shit like that. That's basically a non-answer. She didn't answer, like, what are you going to do about it? Well, this is the thing that already exists. Well, that's great, but what about, what are you going to fucking do? You know? I don't give a fuck about what's already there. What's your solution? She doesn't have a solution. Her solution is to make fun of Democrats. That's her solution, okay? That's the only solution these people fucking have for anything. And if she gets elected, nothing will change because she doesn't have solutions. Right? Do you think anybody in that audience picked up on that? Probably not, because smooth-talking politicians bank on that. It doesn't have to be true. You know, remember that. When you ever hear a politician speak, whenever you hear a, like, you know, or like a fucking CEO or like anything like that, or like a pundit, especially when it comes to political pundits, what they say doesn't have to be true. It doesn't have to make sense. It just has to have that air of authority behind it. And that's what she speaks with. You know, Carrie Lake was actually a news anchor, you know. And that's how she kind of got famous, actually, was by, there was a hot mic moment back in 2019 where she wanted to use Parler. And they were discussing it, you know, because Parler is a social media site run by fucking Nazis, right? And one of her coworkers, like, they were live on air, and one of her coworkers were like, you know, you might get some blowback there from if you're gonna use Parler, right? And there was a hot mic moment where she said, like, you know, she used the F word. Like, I think they were talking about a newspaper in Arizona called the Phoenix New Times, who, you know, I guess is like a muckraking kind of like newspaper. And her coworker was like, hey, you know, you might get some blowback from this newspaper. And Carrie Lake said, fuck them. Right? They're a rag for selling marijuana. That's what she said. And it just so happened that, you know, they were on air at the time. And so that's what made her famous in the public eye in the first place. Right? And from looking at her history, you know, she's sort of like, since then, has like drank the conservative Kool-Aid. You know, she appears to have not been insane in the past. You know, at one point she was a registered Democrat, voted for Obama, stuff like that, and has gone full MAGA, which kind of makes me think she's bullshitting. She's kind of a grifter, and she's using this as an opportunity to, like, you know, basically fucking get elected. Which, I hope that's what it is. I hope it's that, and she's not, like, fucking a true believer. You know, she's not drinking the Kool-Aid and shit, but... because it looks like she's going to fucking win. Let's watch the rest of this. This is only 2 minutes long.
Possible to protect our kids at school.
So we were
protection of our athletes, and certainly the most important people in our lives, our children, should have protection. I do want to get to the very bottom of who made the decision to mask our kids. Fauci, CDC, I think the school teachers union was in on it. I want to find out who made these decisions to shut our businesses down and shut our churches down.
Oh yeah, she's a big time anti-masker, COVID denier person as well. Right. Now, see, she's talking about COVID denial, you know, and you know, anti-masking and stuff. The question was, what are you going to do to help for school safety? Right, that was the question. Why is she talking about anti-mask shit? Right.
Down. I want to have a commission to investigate COVID and how it was handled in this state, and hand up any civil or criminal charges that need to be made, because we're not going to just forget what happened when our lives got turned upside down, when our businesses got shut down, when our grandparents and parents are forced to die alone in a nursing home.
See, it's interesting she would say that, because COVID is still happening. Right? COVID is not over with. It is still a thing that's happening. Let's look and see. Let's see how many people exactly died from it yesterday. Let's go over here. Actually, you know what? I don't want to search when it's open, you know, because I'm afraid what might pop up in my search window here, but, you know, coronavirus deaths. Here we go. Let's just go to Google, right? And let's see what Google has to say about how many people died yesterday. Let's go over here to, let's say we got deaths. This is Los Angeles County. I want to see, let's see, that's cases, deaths, coronavirus. I want to go to more locations and statistics. And I want to see, let's go to United States. Deaths reported yesterday, 489. So this is how many who have actually died that we know of. Remember, it's probably more than this. Okay. 1,068,496. It is most likely at least twice that number. Okay, because, you know, many hospitals around the country are not even reporting cases anymore, let alone deaths. Like, for example, Florida. You know, the information out of Florida cannot be trusted, right? You know, we've seen in the past. It's like they purposely kept those numbers down on purpose. You know, purposely on purpose. Right. Kept the COVID numbers down, especially, during the last election, shit like that. Right, because Ron DeSantis is a fucking asshole. And, people went to jail. There was that one lady who was like a fucking, whistleblower who tried to expose all that shit. Who was like, pretty much going to end up in prison because of that. So, yeah, this is, how many people yesterday. Imagine if 489 people were killed by, I don't know, trans men or trans women yesterday. What do you think the Republicans would be doing? They'd be losing their fucking minds. It'd be front page news. Trans women slaughter Americans. That's what it would say. Imagine if 489 people were killed by illegal, immigrants yesterday. What would the Republicans be saying? They'd be losing their fucking minds over it. Imagine if 489 people bought ice cream, Baskin-Robbins ice cream, and died, and there was poison in it. What do you think Fox News and Newsmax would be saying over that? Probably some shit like Biden poisons ice cream. That's probably how the headline would go. They'd find some way to blame it on Democrats, right? But the point is, they'd be flipping out if 489 people died in any other way yesterday, except from COVID-19. Why? Why? Because it's politically expedient for them to do so. So let's go back to let's go back to this, to Carrie Lake here. So when Carrie Lake sits here, and remember, Carrie Lake is talking. This question here was about safety in schools. What are you going to do to make the schools safe, right? How exactly is not following basic precautions to stop, stop the spread of a disease during a pandemic going to make children safe? Okay. Because contrary to what people think, children can and have died from COVID-19. Okay. It's been a very small number. Somewhere around 700 over the last 2 years. Around that. It's last time I checked, it was 589, and that was a year and a half ago. So it's probably, I think it's less than 1,000 still, right? But that's not insignificant. There are plenty of children out there who have pre-existing conditions which can be exacerbated through COVID. Plenty of children out there who have lung issues, who have issues with blood pressure, who have other types of things which, if they were to catch COVID, could act as a catalyst that could lead to very bad things for them. Children get cancer too. Children get, diabetes and all the other shit that, are risk factors for death when it comes to COVID, right? Why are we just ignoring that? Fuck. It's I don't understand this shit. And then, you talk about businesses being shut down. That's the other thing she said. Yeah, okay, well, that was harsh. And I understand it. I mean, fuck, I was out of work for 6 months at the beginning of COVID, so I know how much it sucks to not be able to make money. But during the time that there were shutdowns, there was no vaccine. There was no option. Basically, there was no alternative to the shutdown. You know, it was either shut down the business or people die. Which one of those are those your alternatives? What are you going to choose? And who the hell is going to go to work when you may die? Right? I don't care. I wouldn't have gone, you know, I mean, yes, I was out of work, but if I was employed and they said, you have to come into the office, and I'm like, well, fucking, you know, at one point before, you know, the Christmas, before we had vaccinations, there were 3,000 people a day dying. I think that's as high as it got. 3,000 people reported deaths per day from the Rona, right? No, who's going to risk that? I'm not going to risk that. I'm like, you know, middle-aged, overweight with high blood pressure. I'm not fucking putting my life at risk for that shit. You know, it's different now because we have a vaccine, which works. I mean, fuck, I caught COVID. Vaccine probably saved my life. Right? It's different now, you know. If you're vaccinated, you're more likely to survive. I mean, yes, there's still people who die who are vaccinated, but that's, you know, nothing's fucking perfect, right? So it's like, you know, you're more likely to survive it. And I mean, the thing is, the vaccine would be more effective if these assholes would have like stayed home and masked up, and instead they didn't. So now there's all these fucking variants out there that the vaccine only like works 70% against and shit like that. You know, so we have like the anti-vaxxers and the fucking, you know, COVID denialists to thank for the fact that COVID is still around. Thanks guys. Appreciate that shit. So no, you know, like, I don't understand that. And she's probably going to win the election. Who the fuck is voting for these people? Why would you vote for this person who is like basically saying, when there's a pandemic, I'm going to make it so that we don't do jack shit to stop the pandemic? That's what she's saying right here. You know, how, because that's the thing. It's like, well, what else do you want to do? Okay. There was no vaccine. All right. At the time. Okay. So you don't want people to wear masks. You know, that's literally the only thing, two things you can do is either stay inside or wear a mask. You don't want to do either of those things. Well, what's your fucking solution for COVID-19 then? What's your solution? You know, she's not saying it. She doesn't have to, and that's the thing, she doesn't have to say what the solution is. She doesn't have to give solutions. You know, she just has to stir up fucking hate and fear. That's how Republicans get elected. It's so fucking transparent. That's the thing about it. If you just sit down and you think about it for like literally like 1.5 seconds, it becomes so incredibly transparent. Just think about, you know, I hope somebody from Arizona stumbles across this stream. You know, if you live in Arizona and you're going to vote for this person, just think about what she's actually fucking saying. Okay, don't think about the emotional things that she's triggering in you to make you feel like good or bad or angry or whatever. Think about what she's actually fucking saying right here. All right? She's telling you the next time there's a pandemic, we're not going to do anything to stop it. We will force you to go to work. We won't give you any help. Right? You won't get any assistance from the government at all. That's what she's trying to say here. Right? I don't understand why somebody would vote for that. I really do not understand it. Let's there's only a minute left. Let's watch the rest.
When our people who worked so hard were forced out of a job because they didn't want to get a shot that their boss wanted them to get. So I want to find out where...
That did not happen at all anywhere in the entire country. Nobody was fired because they wouldn't get a vaccine. That's bullshit, okay? There are federal positions that require you to get vaccines, right? There were no laws that said, hey, you know, if you weren't own a private company and you don't vaccinate your people, they get laid, you have to fire them. That's not a thing that happened, right? If your company did that, that is the decision of their company. So what does she want? Like what? She trying to say that a private owner of a company is not allowed to do what they want with their company? You know? Kind of sounds like she's mad at capitalism to me, right? Is she trying to say there should be some regulations that say that, you know, a company's not allowed to fire people if they don't want to get vaccinated? Is that what she's trying to say? You know, there's like literally like, I think what it was the only people that were forced to get vaccinated is like for the federal government. Like that's it, right? Because the federal government does have that ability, yes, you know. You do, you know, for they are allowed to do that. Like for example, if you like are in the armed forces or something, you have to get vaccines. There's no choice. And if you don't get it, then they kick you out. And, you know, Joe Biden actually enforced that in some of the, you know, for some of the federal positions, saying you got to get vaccinated. Right. The CDC guidelines were not to fire people who didn't get vaccinated. The CDC guidelines said you either get vaccinated or you have to take a weekly test. You had those options. And as far as I know, there was no state. I could be wrong. If I'm wrong here, please let me know. But to my knowledge, there was no states in this country that said, if you don't vaccinate your people, you have to fire them. That's not a thing that happened, right? Any company that did that on their own, like, you know, reconnaissance. You know what I mean? Like, they did that of their own free will. Because there was no regulation that forced that, right? There should be, if you ask me. Fuck. If I was in charge, I wouldn't let kids go to school without a vaccination. I would treat it just like measles. You don't want to get a measles vaccination, you don't go to school. Same shit should happen with this, right? As far as I'm fucking concerned. And the thing is, if we were to actually do that, we could finally nip this shit in the bud, you know? You know, it's been, what, 2 years now? Almost going on 3 years. We're still living with this, right? It's still out there, but people are just fucking ignoring it now, right? If everybody were vaccinated, it would go away. You know? Well, actually, probably not anymore, because now we have, like, fucking all these variants and shit. You know, like I just said before, we have all these variants that are, like, resistant to the fucking vaccines now. You know? It's fucking ridiculous, folks. It's like, you know, like the Republicans basically stood in the way, created this problem, and now they're still criticizing, you know. Who is she trying to criticize here exactly? You know? Like, the shit she's saying didn't fucking happen. It's just sort of that classic kind of move where, like, you know, create a problem and then offer a solution to it that politicians do, except she's forgetting the offering the solution part. That's the most, like, aggravating thing about this entire thing, you know. She wants to, but like what she just said, oh, we're gonna, like, prosecute people to the fullest extent of the law, you know, for taking, like, measures to stop a pandemic. That's what she wants to do. She wants to put people in jail for trying to stop a pandemic. Like, it's mind-blowing.
A lot of these decisions were made. Who was responsible? And if there is a way, and if there was some criminal activity, I think we need to look at that. Absolutely. This wasn't just some little petty theft. This was a theft of our freedom, our lives. This was the theft of our health. And I'm all for it. And I think that's why they're fighting against me.
You don't have the freedom to spread a disease. That is not one of the freedoms you have. That is not a right. If you go into the, you know, Constitution and you look at the Bill of Rights, it does not say right to spread a disease. No. Right. In fact, it says the opposite. It says that the government will look after the general welfare of its citizens. That's what it actually says in the Constitution. Part of the general welfare is providing for public health, right? So Carrie Lake, when she becomes governor, hopefully she doesn't, but she most likely will not find anyone that she can throw in jail for COVID lockdowns. Which I don't even think there were any fucking COVID lockdowns in Arizona. I don't know. I'd have to look that up. But if there were, she won't be able to find any. Because that is the law. That is a power that the government has, that a state government has for sure. And there were no federal lockdowns. That's the other thing. The federal government does not have that ability unless they declare martial law. That's how they would have to do it. They would have to declare martial law before they could, like, say, stay in your homes. You know what I mean? It's the state that did that. So she's going to have to be looking at any prior, state officials, and she's going to find, nope, was completely 100% legal, because it is, right? It's all, and here's the thing, Carrie Lake is, she fucking knows that. This is all bullshit, right? It's all bullshit, but people are going to, vote for her because of this, because they're fucking brainwashed by, conservative pundits and shit into thinking that COVID lockdowns are like one step away from fucking North Korea. I wish I was making that shit up, but I'm not, There's actual people out there that they've convinced that, like, the whole COVID lockdown thing was like a satanic plot, So who the fuck is Carrie Lake anyway, right? Who the hell even is she? Well, she, like I said, came to fame in 2019 when she dropped an F-bomb live on the air when talking about joining up with Parler, right? Remember, Parler is the social media network which is actually owned by Candace Owens and her husband, right? And it is overrun with Nazis and white supremacists and white nationalists and anti-Semites. That's Parler. That's the one that, Parler, they're basically, she's trying to scam, Candace Owens is trying to scam Kanye West into buying it off her because it only has a user base of like 300,000, which is disturbing when you think about, there's 300,000 fucking Nazis out there, or else people who are like okay with Nazis being on their platform. Those are Republicans, right? I guess that's kind of sort of good news, is that's sort of a drop in the bucket when it comes to like the population of the country and shit, and that's not counting however many like people from other countries might be on there, So I guess that's kind of good news, but that's what she wanted to do. She wanted to go to this, be on this website with fucking white supremacists and neo-Nazis and shit like that. And, there was some concern from her friend and stuff saying that, hey, your job, your current employer, this news, news channel that you're an anchor for might not like that, because it doesn't look good for business to have your news anchor, cavorting around with fucking white supremacists, right? So that's how she came to fame, was basically dropping an F-bomb in relation to all that. She, as we just saw, is a COVID denier. She spread COVID-19 misinformation on Facebook and Twitter. She's an anti-masker. That doesn't look right there. That wouldn't be correct. The shadow would be down here. There we go. Right. She is a COVID denier. She's an anti-masker, anti-lockdown kind of person, as we just discussed for the last 10 minutes. She claimed in November of 2021 to a group of Republican retirees that she was speaking to that she was taking hydroxychloroquine in order to fight off COVID. This is before vaccines were available. The vaccine was available to the general public. At that point, I think vaccines are only available to people 65 years old and older, right? So, yeah, whether that's true or not, I don't know, but if it is, it's disturbing, because that means that she believes in ridiculous pseudoscience and medicine woo. Hydroxychloroquine does not fight COVID. It does absolutely zero when it comes to fighting COVID, and it may even be detrimental. A couple studies I saw said that it could even be bad for your health to, to take that stuff. But at the very least, it has been scientifically proven to have zero effect on actually fighting the Rona. She stated that as governor, she would work to have hydroxychloroquine and ivermectin produced in the state to make it easier to get these life-saving drugs, both of which do not do anything to actually fight the COVID-19 virus. But she would do it anyway. See how now that's really disturbing, because if she actually did do that, if she actually did, say, decide to spend public tax dollars to manufacture this stuff, that will lead to more deaths, because what happens is that legitimizes it for people, and they go, see, hey, the government's telling me to take this stuff, the governor is telling me to do it, and she's making the government pay for it, it'll save me. And then they won't go get vaccinated, and they won't wear masks, right, and all this other shit. And that will lead to a spike of actual deaths. That is a perfect example of how misinformation can lead to actual death. Right there. And this is the governor, the soon-to-be possible governor, hopefully not, but most likely yes, governor of Arizona, actively endangering people's lives with her misinformation. Let's see, what else? She's claimed that Biden and the Democrats have a demonic agenda. Well, fuck. I guess the only thing we can do is continue. Anyway, long story short, don't vote for Carrie Lake. I just said a bunch of crap about Carrie Lake, and it all just got, muted. And I feel like a moron now. But, since we only have 30 minutes, it looks like it was only 10 minutes of the stream, which is, Jesus Christ, 10 minutes of the stream. Oh, dude, fucking embarrassing as fuck. I think I'll just cut that out after this publishes. I'll just go in and just excise that portion, because I feel like an idiot now. Thank you, guys. I guess I should pay attention to the comments more, right? Anyway, let's move on. Sorry. I will pay more close. I just need to get a better headset. That's what I need. Why does this thing even have a fucking mute on it in the first place? I don't know. That fucked up. I screwed that up. Sorry, guys. So anyway, I did want to talk a little bit about Charlie Kirk here for the last half hour, right? So, but before we go, though, here is, I just posted down in the thing, the link I just posted is a link to the Santa Monica Observer. That was the article that Elon Musk was sharing. So you guys can check that out on your own. I'm not going to worry about that right now. But it basically it gives a pretty good summary of the current, I guess, conspiracy theory against Paul Pelosi, and the conspiracy theory that it was all like a botched romantic encounter and all that stuff, right? Oy, fucking shit. So anyway, yeah, let's just move on. So I want to show you guys this video here.
At charliekirk.com.
Right. I am sorry to subject you guys to Charlie Kirk, but I think we should talk about it. This is his latest. I'm still okay. You can still hear me, good. Goddamn embarrassed. All right, this is his latest video that he did a few days ago. I think this is from Halloween. Yeah, about 5 days ago, where he talks about Paul Pelosi, and there were a couple of sections here that I wanted to comment on. So this is his entire radio show, which is fucking 3 hours long. We're obviously not going to watch the whole thing. But there was a couple of things I wanted to comment on here. First one was starting around here at 352, right? And this is where he proceeds to, he talks about Hillary Clinton for a little bit here, and I thought that this part was funny and ironic. So let's see what Charlie Kirk has got to say about Hillary Clinton.
Back on the news cycle, do you think the change of ownership had something to do with it? Yes. I mean, Elon Musk responded to Hillary Clinton's tweet where Hillary Clinton said, the Republican Party and its mouthpieces, that's our show, the Charlie Kirk Show, now regularly spread hate and deranged conspiracy theories. Oh, we spread hate while your husband goes down to islands with underage girls and sex traffics them. We're the party of hate?
So I just wanted to point that out. So Hillary Clinton just said that Republican mouthpieces spread around hate and conspiracy theories. Charlie Kirk's first reaction to that is to cite a conspiracy theory. Right? Let's listen to that one more time, right? Because I thought that was pretty telling. One more time, Charlie Kirk.
Charlie Kirk Show.
Tom brought up a great point. He said, hi, Charlie. Perhaps the new Twitter allowed us to push back on the news cycle. Do you think the change of ownership had something to do with it? Yes. I mean, Elon Musk responded to Hillary Clinton's tweet where Hillary Clinton said, the Republican Party and its mouthpieces, that's our show, the Charlie Kirk Show, now regularly spread hate and deranged conspiracy theories. Oh, we spread hate while your husband goes down to islands with underage girls and sex traffics them. We're the...
Yep. So just wanted to point that out. I thought that was funny that he responds to a criticism about spreading hate and conspiracy theories with a conspiracy theory and hate. That was the very first thing that he did there. That shit was fucking hilarious. Let's listen to a little bit more Charlie Kirk.
Party of hate? It is shocking, but not surprising, that violence is the result. As citizens, we must hold them accountable for their words and the actions that follow. Oh, yes, responsible, says Hilda Beast. I'm telling you, she might be running in 24. She is not done. You see, Joe Biden has really extended the, let's say, the aura of a possibility on the left. You see, you got to imagine Hillary Clinton's watching Joe Biden and saying, I could do this. I got another 20 years left in me. He could barely talk. I could talk. I'm Hillary Clinton. Anyway, Elon Musk...
The criticism was that Republicans are spreading hate. He's claiming that Republicans are not spreading hate by spreading hate about Hillary Clinton and Joe Biden. That's how he responded to that. The people at home watching this will be like, nope, he's not spreading hate. Because they don't, it doesn't have to be true. Remember, it doesn't have to be true. He just has to push those emotional buttons. And I guarantee you none of his viewers will put two and two together and see how he's completely contradicting himself in this instance. I think he has the writers from the Roadrunner cartoon or shit or something type this shit up for him. You know what I mean? I don't understand how anybody could see that. Could miss that. Anyway, moving on.
Then respond to that tweet and said there very well might be more to this story, linking to an article that is not necessarily substantiated. But some people believe that Paul Pelosi was having a gay relationship with this person.
So when you spread something that is not substantiated, that is the definition of a conspiracy theory. Right? He just said, he was just responding to Hillary Clinton commenting that the Republican mouthpieces, which he said himself is this show, right? That's what he just said, spread around hate and conspiracy theories. he immediately turns around, spreads hate about Hillary Clinton, and then segues into a conspiracy theory about Paul Pelosi. It's like, it's, I mean, is this guy just like, does he have a functioning brain cell? Right? Does he read the shit that he says before he says it? You know, is he actually thinking about this stuff before, like, you know, he goes on air? Does he, like, fact check it? I mean, I know they don't fact check it, you know, because he wouldn't have a show if they actually fact check stuff. It's just, it's kind of like you couldn't make a bigger, like, self-own if you tried, you know? I mean, do the people at home listening to this stuff even pick up on this shit? Like, all you gotta do is just listen. You know, listen to the man's own words. And it's so blatantly obvious that, like he hasn't had a coherent thought, like, in his entire fucking life. I mean, fuck, he's just complaining about hate and fear and all that stuff. You know, we spread around hate and fear, and, this is lies from the Democrats, and then he proceeds to do exactly what they just said that he did. I don't understand at all.
Potentially. We don't know that. It's not substantiated. It's a theory in kind of high-class society in San Francisco.
Yeah, we don't know that it's a theory. Yeah, like a conspiracy theory like that. Like a conspiracy theory that you just said that you didn't spread around. You know, like, is it one of those? Charlie Kirk, a conspiracy theory filled with hate and fear, that isn't true. That's just there to smear somebody and spread hate around about them. Is that what you're trying to say? You fucking moron. You fucking giant little-faced McNugget-headed idiot. God damn. His head looks like a giant... You know what he looks like one of the chicken McNuggets from, like, fucking McDonald's. Like they have those commercials where the chicken McNuggets are, like, dancing around and they all have these little faces. That's what he fucking looks like to me. Anyway.
Francisco, there are rumbles and rumors and murmurs, you could say, that Paul Pelosi is involved in kind of the gay circuit there. Okay, could be true. Not exactly the focus of this program, but if the...
Could be true. Why don't you go find out, Charlie Kirk, before you say this shit? I couldn't find anything. I looked around for any kind of, like, photos or, like, anything, I did some Google searches for, about 30 minutes last night. I didn't look too hard, I guess. I didn't go digging through fucking, like, newspapers and shit out of library. But I couldn't find anything that said anything at all about Paul Pelosi being gay. Ever. But, you, Charlie Kirk, have millions of dollars and a staff of, like, dedicated researchers. At least I assume you do. Anybody with the kind of resources that you have should have these things. You have the ability to find out. So why don't you go fucking find out before you open your fucking mouth on TV, or I guess, on the radio or whatever, and spread conspiracy theories that you just claimed that you weren't spreading. How about you fucking do that, Charlie Kirk? You giant asshole. And that's the thing. He knows. He knows exactly what he's doing, right? He knows this is bullshit, because he's using weasel words and stuff to try to get himself out of it. Oh, that's not the focus of our show. Oh, that's unsubstantiated. All this other crap. He knows he knows it's not true. That's why he's being weaselly about it, and that's what makes it worse, in my opinion. Giant fucking grifting piece of shit. They're all grifters, folks. Moving on. Oy.
The media, like A.B. Klobuchar says, we now have to prevent people from going to Congress and use our power to go after you. Then it becomes our problem.
Nobody in the media said that. That's made up bullshit.
Let's get to another piece of tape here. Let's go to this one. Let's go to cut 5. San Francisco Police Department gives briefing on Paul Pelosi's attack. Play cut 5.
At approximately 2:27 this morning, San Francisco police officers were dispatched to the residence of Speaker Nancy Pelosi regarding an A priority well-being check. When the officers arrived on scene, they encountered an adult male and Mr. Pelosi's husband, Paul. Our officers observed Mr. Pelosi and the suspect both holding a hammer. The suspect pulled the hammer away from Mr. Pelosi.
So, the conspiracy theory has evolved, right, to where they're both in their underwear, right? This is, there is no proof at all that they were in their underwear, right? That's just something that they fucking, like, the right wing has just made up, right? There's no, like, police, like, reports, anything that I've seen where they say, like, both men were in their underwear or anything like that, right? But, it could have happened. I mean, the thing is, it happened at 2 a.m, and, Paul Pelosi may have been in his underwear because he was, like, asleep. And I don't know about you, but I don't wear a 3-piece suit when I, like, go to sleep, right? There's no evidence that David DePape was in his underwear that I've seen. I don't know. Maybe if somebody, wants to supply that to me, that's fine, right? And then the other conspiracy is that, Paul Pelosi was calm and stuff like that, under fire. And, wasn't, like, freaking out or whatever when the cops first arrived. And if you think about that, it's because, well, he was being held hostage. That's actually the reason why he was calm and everything, And apparently, this is the story. Apparently what happened is that this guy was holding him hostage, and then he told him he had to go to the bathroom. And so the dude let him go to the bathroom because, Paul Pelosi's 82, you're old and shit, you get, fucking bladder ain't what it used to be. And his phone was in the bathroom, and then that's how he, like, called the police. And the police, to their credit, were there within 3 minutes. I'm pretty sure they knew who Paul Pelosi was, and that's why they were there so fast. And when they arrive, they saw, apparently Paul Pelosi wasn't going crazy. He was calm about it. And, like, and most likely what it sounds like to me is that Paul Pelosi was trying to talk the guy down and got his first name and all that and introduced him as my friend and shit like that so that he wouldn't go crazy and, smash his brains out with a hammer. That's kind of what it sounds like to me, but that's what ended up happening anyway. The cops show up and then they, struggle ensues. The guy fucking brains him with a hammer and Paul Pelosi ends up in the hospital. And it kind of sounds like that's what Paul Pelosi was trying to avoid having happened. And the right wing is trying to switch this around and turn it into a giant conspiracy theory. So let's continue on here. We don't need to listen to this cop here. Let's just go ahead to, there we go.
Use that situation as a reason to then smear us. We're not going to put up with that.
Actually, we need to rewind that. We need to rewind what he just
As
said.
always, you can email us freedom at...
Arrived on scene, they encountered an adult male and Mr. Pelosi's husband, Paul. Our officers observed Mr. Pelosi and the suspect both holding a hammer. The suspect pulled the hammer away from Mr. Pelosi and violently assaulted him with it.
Like they were
So look,
struggling over it.
I wish him the best. I wish him a speedy recovery. No one should have to encounter that sort of violence. But if you're going to use that situation as a reason to then smear us, we're not going to put up with that.
It is not a smear to tell the truth. Okay. The truth is, David DePape was obsessed with insane right-wing conspiracy theories. That's the actual truth. Okay. We saw the websites that the guy had. We went over it himself, right? They were there for several months, the websites. They had blog posts going back to like August and June and stuff. At least the one that I saw. I don't know how long the other one, like he had a WordPress site as well. I didn't get to see that one. I don't know how long that one was established or was there or anything like that, right? And he most clearly was not a normal person, and also clearly believed in right-wing conspiracy theories when it came to things like COVID denialism and anti-Semitism and that kind of thing. That was 100% true, right? It's not a smear to say the guy was an insane right-winger who believed in conspiracy theories promoted by the right wing. That is not a smear. That's the truth, right? And the thing is, it's Charlie Kirk's job right now. Like, and this kind of happens every time, like, a crazy right-wing guy goes nuts and goes on a shooting spree or something, or, like, you know, engages in a mass shooting, or gets caught fucking assaulting someone, anything like that. Anytime it's, like, someone from the right, the pundits and the talking heads like Charlie Kirk always sort of have to go into, like, defensive mode. And their number one defense is to say that the dude was crazy. And that their number two defense is to claim that he was a left-winger and he's the result of left-wing politics and stuff like that. And that was kind of what they started with when this first happened. They were trying to say, oh, this is just a result of crime and all that. Oh, this is... You see, the left-wingers don't give a shit about crime, which is like, I don't know where that fucking narrative came from either. That the left wing doesn't care about crime, you know? Like, why? Because we want to, like, you know, forgive people for having, like, marijuana convictions? Like, what the fuck does that have to do with violent assaults like this? Nothing. You know, but they'll try to twist that around. And then they see that that narrative doesn't work. People don't believe that shit. And then now they have to, like, you know, try to claim, like, well, even if it's true, even if the guy was a crazy white-ring conspiracy theorist, that's still, you know, slander against us. How the fuck is it slander against us? You're promoting the same shit that this guy believed in, right? And you're even, you know, he's even doing it right here. He's promoting a conspiracy theory, you know, that Paul Pelosi was, like, you know, not attacked, but rather that this was a dispute with, like, a gay prostitute. He's promoting, and there's zero proof for that whatsoever. There is no proof at all that any of that happened. And it's like, he's, with a straight face, Charlie Kirk is sitting there saying, this is a smear against us for promoting hate and conspiracy theories, as he spreads hate and promotes a conspiracy theory. It's just fucking, it's unbelievable. Absolutely unbelievable. Moving on.
As always, you can email us freedom@charliekirk.com. Right. We were cut off right at the end when Amy Klobuchar...
Yeah, okay. Shut the fuck up. All right, we're gonna move down to another segment here, starting at 52 minutes in. Let's see, 52. Where is it? Right here, roughly right here.
See the Democrats be obliterated. And I also know the data and the counties, and so do our team. So make sure you make plans to watch us on election night. That you're able to trespass, second degree.
Where is it? Did I put the wrong timestamp? I hope not.
Between GOP rhetoric and Paul Pelosi assault. Of course you should reject any link. Why is the Republican Party, why is the conservative movement to blame for gay schizophrenic nudists that are hemp jewelry makers breaking into somebody's home, or maybe not breaking into somebody's home? Why?
See, okay, that's why I wanted to watch this part, because he jumps straight back into the conspiracy theory here. So what he's referring to was a, you know, let's just rewind it. Let's watch him say that one more time, okay? It's right... Actually, I think I can go like this. There we go. I can just go right there. Oh, crap. No, 42 is what I want. I want 42. Come on. Right after... I guess that's as precise as it'll get. Okay.
I mean, I'm looking at Politico.com. I'm looking at the New York Times. I'm looking at all these places, and there's a little bit of mention here. For example, Politico says top Republicans reject any link between GOP rhetoric and Paul Pelosi assault. Of course you should reject any link. Why is the Republican Party, why is the conservative movement to blame for gay schizophrenic nudists that are hemp jewelry makers breaking into somebody's home, or maybe not breaking into somebody's home? Why are
the reason why I wanted to pull that segment out right there is because that sentence that he just said, I think exemplifies Charlie Kirk like the best. Okay. Why is the political movement, the Republicans, to blame for a hemp, like what did he just say? Like, why is the Republicans to blame for a gay hemp nudist activist who may or may not have broken into places? And that sentence really exemplifies to me everything wrong with Charlie Kirk and everything wrong with the Republican Party, right? Because on the one hand, he's saying, well, we didn't cause this, right? Why are you blaming us for this? And then he gives in the same sentence the reason why we should blame them for this. Because he's spreading around conspiracy theories and hate. In the exact same sentence where he denies any responsibility for radicalizing this person, for, spreading around the types of conspiracy theories which David DePape was clearly obsessed with. He spreads around the same hate and conspiracy theories in the exact same sentence. And I thought that was just a masterful self-own, that sentence there. Right? Let's watch it one more time, because I can't emphasize how much of a self-own that actually is. Right? How much of how this sentence just shows what a giant piece of shit and lying grifter Charlie Kirk actually is. Right here. Come on, I can do it. There we go.
There's a little bit of mention here. For example, Politico says top Republicans reject any link.
It's like gold. That's what it is. It's like manna from heaven, this sentence. He couldn't have shoved his own foot up his own ass any harder than this. And I just want to watch it one more time.
Link between GOP rhetoric and Paul Pelosi assault. Of course you should reject any link. Why is the Republican Party, why is the conservative movement to blame for gay schizophrenic nudists that are hemp jewelry makers breaking into somebody's home, or...
Why is the conservative movement to blame for gay schizophrenic hemp jewelry makers breaking into someone's home or not breaking into someone's home? It's just, it's like the self-own is so, oh my God. Is he just not intelligent enough to understand what he just said? Is that what it is? I mean, I don't think Charlie Kirk is an idiot. I mean, I think his positions on things are stupid. But I think the man himself is actually rather intelligent. If you were to actually sit him down and have him take the SATs or something, he'd probably score pretty well. I think he's just oblivious to his own rhetoric. I think he just has zero capacity to self-examine and look at his own bullshit that he's spewing with a critical eye. And that's one thing that, something that we should all try to do, something that I try to do. I continuously watch my old videos and read my old blog posts and stuff like that, once in a while, not continuously, but once in a while, I'll watch an old video of mine from 5 years ago or something and try to see okay, is what I said still relevant, and also does it make sense, and was I being an idiot back then? And to have a little bit of self-criticism is a good thing, right? You shouldn't just automatically assume everything you say is it's always a good idea to look back and see well, where was I wrong? Could I have said this better? is what I said actually true? Was I being facetious? Was I, you know, using logical fallacies, shit like that? You know, was I just straight out wrong? Or has my opinion on this been updated? Have I seen new information, etc., etc.? It's always a good idea, especially, you know, when it comes to stuff like, you know, when you're a content creator, right? And, you know, people's political opinions evolve and stuff like that. It's always a good idea to kind of keep those things, you know, to be conscious of the fact that it's, I guess what I'm trying to say, like, it's a good idea to be conscious of the fact that you're not the smartest person on earth. You know, what you say is not the end all be all. You're not perfect in any way, and your takes, you're perfectly capable of giving bad takes and not realizing it at the same time. And I always try to do that with myself. You know, I you know, having that type of self-examination, I don't think Charlie Kirk possesses that ability. I think Charlie Kirk is like, I think he's got a pretty big fucking ego and like thinks he's the smartest guy in the room at any given time and just doesn't realize when he says something incredibly fucking stupid. Like he just did right there. That's incredibly fucking stupid what he just said. The way he framed that sentence is the dumbest shit I've heard from this guy, like, ever in my entire life. And it shows a complete lack of self-reflection and inability to examine his own, like, narrative, I guess is the best way to put it. So anyway, I thought that shit was funny. Let's watch the rest of this segment, though.
Maybe not breaking into somebody's home. Why are we to blame for that exactly? And why is he still in jail? Why has he not been bailed out? By the way, if some amazing patriot out there in San Francisco or the Bay Area wants to really be a midterm hero, someone should go and bail this guy out. I bet his bail's like $30,000 or $40,000. Bail him out and then go ask him some questions. I wonder what his bail is. They're going after him with attempted murder.
Very funny. You know, that wouldn't be so funny if he didn't say less than an hour before this how Republicans do not spread hate and conspiracy theories. You know, that's what just really gets me about that. I just want to, my mind keeps going back to that. You know, he reads a criticism from Hillary Clinton about the Republican mouthpieces in the party, such as him, spreading hate and conspiracy theories, turns right around, and, you know, less than like an hour later is like, oh, we should bail out the guy that fucking tried to murder the Speaker of the House and put her husband in the hospital. We should do that. And ask him if it's really true what happened. It's like, just no fucking self-reflection on this guy at all. Like, I mean, fuck. It's plain as day. Like, I don't know. I'm thinking that he just doesn't give a shit. I'm leaning towards he's lying, like, that he knows it's hate. He knows it's fear. He knows what he's spreading is like, you know, conspiracy theories and shit like that. And I'm leaning towards that, the grifter angle, that this is how he makes money. You know, because I don't think he's too stupid to realize what he's saying. You know, I think somebody like Marjorie Taylor Greene is too stupid to realize, or Lauren Boebert. They're actually too fucking dumb. You know, or Louis Gohmert is a good example. You know, or Alex Jones. Alex Jones is like a true believer. He gets high off his own supply. Those people, you know. Those are the actual people who are like staying up late at night praying over their fucking like Hotel Gideon Bibles and shit that the angry Jewish reptilians will, like, you know, stop possessing Joe Biden, and praying that they won't force all their kids to like fucking get, you know, to get like bottom surgery or something. You know what I mean? Like, and I don't think Charlie Kirk does that shit at all. I think Charlie Kirk is just counting the dollars, you know, all the way to the bank, laughing at all the fucking morons that tune into his show every day. And then, you know, yeah, it's gotta be. I mean, if it isn't, then fucking, man, I don't know. It's making me lose faith in fucking humanity every time I watch this guy. One more segment from Charlie Kirk where he talks about Bolsonaro. And then we'll end this. Let's go over here. It's way over here at 2 hours and 8 minutes in. Want to talk about Charlie Kirk. This is Charlie Kirk on democracy, right? Because we've seen how much he cares about people. We've seen how much he gives a fuck about, like, you know, someone like, say, the Speaker of the House. You know, he doesn't give a fuck about her at all. Doesn't seem to give a shit about people's rights or anything like that. So let's see what he's got to say about actual democracy itself.
The Charlie Kirk Show podcast. We deeply appreciate that. Welcome to our third hour of radio. All right, let's get into some more stories here. Brazil is making some international headlines for now, unfortunately, displacing the great leader Jair Bolsonaro. I don't know what tape that is, but let's...
It's Bolsonaro, is how you pronounce the guy's name. Not Bolsonaro, right? I know Charlie Kirk knows how to pronounce his name. All you have to do is watch any news story on Bolsonaro to understand how to pronounce his name correctly. This is kind of a thing that conservatives do sometimes when it comes to, especially like people with foreign names. Usually their political opposition is that they'll mispronounce their names on purpose. It's a way of othering people, you know. Marjorie Taylor Greene will do that to Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez all the time. She'll mispronounce her name on purpose, and it's a way of making fun of them and otherizing them. And I don't know, because Charlie Kirk seems to, I mean, if he really doesn't know how to pronounce the guy's name, then he's a fucking moron. You know, it's like, literally, like, what, have you not seen a fucking news broadcast in the last 5 years about Bolsonaro that you don't know how to fucking pronounce his name? Like, seriously? So I think he's mispronouncing it on purpose as part of that, you know. It's sort of a dog whistle to the you know, America First crowd out there, that all these damn foreigners aren't, they're not part of us. Even people that they like, you know. I don't know. Moving on.
Let's play that tape of Brazil. So whatever number that is, let's try to play that. We're working on it. Okay. So look, in Brazil, they have an interesting system. They have a straight popular vote system. And if Brazil had an electoral college, Bolsonaro would have won. So I know very little about Brazil politics. I know probably more than an average American, but I'm far from an expert on it. But there's different regions, and Bolsonaro won.
You know what that means, by the way? Oh, if they would have had an electoral college system, he would have won. That means that he got less votes than the other guy, but more geography. The same way that George Bush Jr. did in our country, the same way that Donald Trump did. Both of those people got less votes, but took home the presidency anyway. Why? Because just like Charlie Kirk said right there, we in the United States treat geography as more important than actual votes, than the actual will of the people. Where you live in the United States matters more when it comes to the presidential election than who you vote for. That is a shortcoming of our electoral system that actually removes people's, representation, right? Any system where the person who gets the less number of votes can win is broken. There's something wrong with that system. That should not be a thing that happens, right? Not in a democracy, not in a republic, right? Charlie Kirk is about to, in this clip, try to confuse the definitions of those things to people in some half-assed attempt to justify why it's okay for the guy who gets less votes to win the election. That's what he's about to say right here.
every single region except what is in Portuguese called the Nordeste region, of which I don't know where that is. I'm guessing that is the most populated area of the country. And so, or yeah, if it's Northeast, then I don't know what, yeah, I guess that would be, I don't know what, I guess that's the population.
So he won every region, Bolsonaro, except for the region where everybody lives. So all the places out there in the rest of the country where nobody lives at, he wins. The region where all of the people live, right, he loses. Why should he become the president of the country if all of the actual people did not vote for him? Why does it matter what region you live in? You know, that's the same shit happens in this country too. It's like, when it comes to the presidency in this country, all of the people live on the coasts in the United States. All of the people live on, you know, they live in coastal cities, right? New York, California, Florida, right? Those are the major population centers, right? Yet for some reason, the actual, like, elections always come down to, like, swing states like fucking Idaho, Ohio, Pennsylvania, shit like that, right? Why are these areas in the country that have less people determining elections like this? There's that shouldn't matter. It shouldn't matter if an entire state, let's take the state of Wyoming for whatever reason, right? Something like that. If an entire state votes one way, they should not have more say in how millions of people vote. It's like the geography shouldn't matter. It shouldn't matter where those people are in the country. What should matter is who got the most votes, right? I mean, am I wrong here? Am I wrong in saying that, you know? Like, what if we put all of the people in the country in California, right? And then we put one voter, like one person in every other state. And then every other state votes for the Republican, and then California votes for the Democrat, right? Does the Republican still win because of the Electoral College? Because they get more Electoral College votes? That's what's fucking happening, you know. It's you know, twice now with the last two Republican presidents have won with less votes. Right? Why do we allow that shit to happen? Why is that fair? What about all the other people who voted and there are more of them? Like, how the fuck is it a democracy or a democratic republic when the guy who gets less votes wins? You know, because this state went to that guy. Who gives a fuck about the states, right? Why does it fucking matter where you live? That should not matter. It should not matter where you live, you know. That the geography of where the voter is located should not take precedence over who the voter actually votes for. Charlie Kirk is defending that shit.
Center, I can't imagine Rio de Janeiro's in the northeastern part of the country, as per they describe it. Okay, it's not, but he won it in a big way, I guess. So if you look at the percentages, though, if you win
it in a big way, yes, he won the place where everybody lives, right? The place that actually has the population where all the people actually live, right? Went to fucking the other guy, not Bolsonaro. What's his name? Delula or whatever his name is, right? Yes, that's what happened. That's how elections work. You know, people vote. The guy who gets the most votes wins. Right? That's how they're supposed to fucking work.
In 70-30 in that one portion of the country, then you are able to basically run the table. It's basically like just winning California 75-25 and then you become president. You see, the Electoral College is a Republican.
What's wrong with that? I don't understand that. Like, it's like winning California, you win the election. So, if all the people live in California, then shouldn't that win you the election? You know? Like, what's the problem with that exactly? How is that flawed? How is that unfair? Right? That means the vote of anybody that lives in that region that fucking De Silva won is counted at the same, the same way that a vote anywhere else is counted. Isn't that right? I mean, that means they have the same value, do they not? Is there something I'm not understanding here?
An idea, not a Republican Party idea, but a small r republic idea. The American founders were extremely wise. The Constitution spreads power across branches of government, but it also spreads over geography and time. This is what makes a republic different than a democracy.
No, it doesn't. That is not what makes a republic different than a democracy. What makes a republic different than a democracy, if you say pure democracy, right, is that a republic is where you have representatives that create laws for you. That's the definition of a republic, right? Whereas in a pure democracy, everything would be done by votes. So the people would create laws and then have a direct vote, and whoever votes for the highest law wins. Whereas in our system, in a republic, we vote for a senator or or a house rep or a mayor or a president or a governor, and then those guys go and they run the government and they do the votes. That's the difference between a democracy and a republic, right? It has nothing to do with geography. It has nothing to do with spreading the power over a geographic area. He just pulled that shit out of his ass. He just made that up. That's complete and total bullshit and has no fucking basis in reality. Moving on.
I have been on the record, and I'll say it again. Democracy is a bad idea. We are not a democracy. Democracy is unsustainable. They always say, our democracy, our democracy, our democracy. We're not a democracy, and we never should be a democracy. Democracies fold very quickly. In fact, you can go back to numerous citations of ancient wisdom about the warnings of democracy.
So this whole thing is like, yes, we are not a democracy. We are a democratic republic, is what we are in this country. We use democracy in order to elect our officials, who then run the government and pass laws on our behalf. This is true, right? What we use democracy for in this country is to get the mandate from the people. That's where the democracy part comes in the United States. The people you vote for, who become your representatives, are supposed to have a mandate from the actual people. That means that people are supposed to vote for them, and then, they go off and they make the laws. Well, if they don't, if they don't have the mandate from the people, then they're illegitimate. That's what gives legitimacy to the government. It's like, why should you obey the laws in our country in the first place? You didn't create the laws, right? Is this not true? You didn't create the tax law. You didn't create whatever law it is that says that, I don't know, you have to stop at a stop sign, or you have to pay your taxes, or you have to, vaccinate your kid in order for him to go to school. You didn't create those laws. So why should you obey them? Right? Because a representative who has the mandate from an election, a mandate from the people, passed that law, right? And yes, it's not perfect, but the majority of the people voted for that person. And if you don't like it, then the next time there's an election, you can work to get that person unelected and put in somebody you do like. That's where the entire mandate for the legitimacy of our government comes from in the first place, right? Without democracy, there is no mandate. You know, when you just appoint somebody, right? When the state legislature just says, okay, we're just going to appoint a like what happened in Michigan, you know, like the Flint water crisis. You know, the Flint water crisis, how that happened is that the governor like basically just kind of took over that city and said, okay, well, we're just going to appoint a you know, city controller. This guy who was not elected, right? And he's going, because like, you know, the city of Flint, like, you know, had like a bankruptcy or something like that. And so the governor just Republican governor just appoints like a city controller with no input from the, you know, people. And then the city controller just starts making decisions, you know, in order to save supposedly in order to save the city money, right? Because they didn't have any fucking money because of like bad governance for years and years and years. One of the decisions that this unelected controller makes is to go back to a shitty water system, right? Just makes it arbitrarily on his own, guy who is not elected, right? And when you're not elected, you're not held accountable to anybody. So he didn't give a fuck that this was like an ancient water system that had lead pipes and crap in it. And so he goes back to this and he institutes this thing, and now there's fucking lead in the water in Michigan. So the city can save a few $1 million, right? If the people had a say in that, do you think they would have allowed that to happen? Do you think the people in Flint, Michigan would have said, hey, it's okay to put lead back in the water? Probably not, you know. But since this guy was not held was not beholden to the people because he was unelected, he could make decisions like that and not have to worry about the consequences. That's what happens when you get rid of democracy. Decisions get made that fuck people up because, you know, part of democracy is, you know, part of our system of democracy is the ability to hold your elected officials accountable, right? Charlie Kirk wants to get rid of that. Charlie Kirk doesn't believe in that. He doesn't like democracy. He doesn't like the idea that politicians should be held accountable for their actions. You just heard it right here, folks. He likes the idea that, oh, you know, we can just dictate our policies to people whether they like it or not. You know? He's a fucking Christian nationalist. Of course he likes that. You know, because he knows that people won't go for his bullshit if they are given an actual choice. This is kind of why Republicans in general, you know, conservatives and Republicans in general are very much anti-democratic, you know, the actual democracy. They don't actually like elections. They don't actually like, you know, this is why they do everything they can to stifle democracy and to like, you know, to stop people from voting, you know, like all this voter suppression shit like that. This is why they always do that. You know, they always talk shit about things like drop boxes and mail-in ballots and saying that they're evil and all this other crap. And you have like these assholes in Arizona, like standing around fucking with like guns and stuff, intimidating people, trying to keep them from voting, you know, at drop boxes, like taking pictures of people going up to vote at drop boxes and stuff like that, you know, because they know when people are given a chance to vote, they tend to not actually win elections, you know. They know that when less people vote, Republicans win. When more people vote, Democrats win. When people are given a chance to express what they want, conservative policies fail, you know. We saw it in fucking Kentucky. Kentucky is like the reddest of the red when it comes to red states, right? You know, Kentucky is not like, you know, not a blue state. It's not filled with coastal elites who like, you know, eat leeks and fucking put brown spicy mustard on their hamburgers and shit like that. You know, Kentucky is like a good old boy kind of state, right? You know, it's fucking red as hell. And when people got a chance to vote on, you know, abortion rights, they voted to keep them overwhelmingly, you know. So no, Republicans are not actually interested in voting. They're not interested in democracy. They don't give a fuck what you think, you know. They're there to dictate to you how you're supposed to live. So anyway, that's enough of this shit. I can only take Charlie fucking Kirk in small little segments like that. Let's turn this fucking big-headed moron off. Fuck off, Charlie Kirk. Anyway, I think we could probably go ahead and end this now. Thank you guys for hanging on, even after I accidentally muted myself for fucking like 15 minutes straight. I feel like a moron. I can see the dip in viewership when that happened. Oh, Jesus Christ. I don't know. I need to just get a better headset. That's what I need to do. I need to get a better headset. I need to pay closer attention to the comments. And you know, what can I say, folks? I'll do better next time. Sorry about that. I feel like a fool. But, you know, shit happens. And thank you all, though, for you guys who tried to tell me that I was muted. I have Dynacat, Adversary Fandon, Lose a Hedgehog. Thank you guys for trying to keep me, you know, keep my show from going off the rails like that. Fucking embarrassing, dude. Jesus Christ. But, oh well. I'll just, I think what I'll do is after this thing publishes, I'll just go in and cut that part out. And hopefully we didn't lose too much. That's the thing, is I'm not even really sure what I said during that 10-minute span, so hopefully it wasn't anything. Now I'm like paranoid and I'm looking down at the Switch every 5 seconds. It's because it's hanging next to me. And when I move my head, it hits my leg, and that's what actually turned it on, and I didn't fucking notice. So, what are you gonna do, folks? The world sucks. Kurt Cobain is dead. Anyway, if you guys like what I do and you want to, you know, support my channel and stuff like that, you can go to my SD shop. I have an SD shop. Let me turn on the window again. It's right here. I sell prints and stuff like that. And, you know, if you like what I do and you want to see more, please consider buying something. I have prints. I sell comics. I sell a bunch of stuff. I'm going to start putting little sculptures and things on there as well for Christmas. If you want to see more of my artwork, I have a gallery here. It's at my DeviantArt site. All of the work that we do on the channel ends up on the site here, on the gallery, and you can, you know, browse that stuff. I have a web comic. It's called Hwanja.com, fun for the whole stupid family. Working on another page, should have it up pretty soon. And I have another YouTube channel where I talk about toys and games and that kind of thing. You can see it there on UCD videos. Anyway, thank you guys. Please like and subscribe if you haven't already. Really appreciate that. And we'll be moving back to our usual schedule of Saturday at 11 a.m. And I'm going to try to stream during the week. I'm going to try to do at least one more stream before the election. Probably on Wednesday. Or actually, no. Actually, probably on Monday. Because I think Tuesday is election, right? And where I'll talk about some of the candidates that are up. And I'm going to try to make that a habit where I stream on either Tuesday or Wednesday during the week. So, thank you guys all for coming. Thank you, Lewis a Hedgehog. Thank you, Adversary Fan. And thank you, Dynacat. And I promise next time not to accidentally mute myself in the middle of the stream. Anyway, guys, adios.